Rachel, and you're watching Dressed Up. We're gonna give you all the ins and outs on how to find the perfect dress for your big day. Today we're gonna dive a little bit into history and we're gonna see the evolution of the wedding dress. Come on, let's get started. So you may be wondering, what is bridal fashion? Essentially, bridal fashion is everything that will be worn on the day of the wedding. That can be what the bridal party is going to wear, and even the accessories that the bride is going to wear with her beautiful gown. And of course, her dress will be greatly influenced by the different trends and even different time periods that she wants to encompass in her wedding. And of course, different seasons of the year will also play a very big factor. So girl, let's travel back in time. So during the ancient Greek time period, women loved to wear bright and colorful dresses. This was not the time period that they were wearing, the white wedding gown as we know today. That was actually considered a color of mourning. So they loved to wear colors of, red and orange and yellow, colors that represented fire and love. They also loved to wear veils that, matched that in those bright colors. They loved to wear flower garlands that represented fertility and starting anew, kind of rebirth. And then they really loved to accent with diamonds, of course. And the styles back then were definitely more kind of loose fitting. They, of course, because that was the style for that time period, but also they were going to be wearing these garments for very, very long periods of time because these events went for what seemed like ages. And of course, who really wants to wear, a really tight fitting garment for that long period of time? So during this time period, social class really determined what colors brides were able to wear. So of course they may have wanted to wear blue or burgundy, but they really couldn't unless they were a certain social class. We did see a lot of more fitted corsets. This kind of was that highlighted waist with the flared, kind of the beginning of the fit and flare look. That was very popular at the time. And we definitely kind of saw it transition into more of a formal, structured silhouette. Welcome to the Victorian era. This was essentially the birth of the white wedding dress as we know it. Queen Victoria herself was credited with popularizing the white wedding dress when she married Prince Albert in a beautiful ivory wedding gown. During this time period, modesty was a very prime theme, and that's kind of why the color white has become synonymous with innocence and purity. So let's compare this dress to one that was worn during the Victorian era. Of course, this isn't a perfect example of one that was worn then, but it definitely rings true because it has a lot of details. One being the long sleeves. Long sleeves were a very popular element during that time period. Of course, the corseted, tight-waisted look was very in. So this dress having that really tight waist with the flared skirt really highlights that detail that was kind of that illusion of creating a really tiny waist. And of course, they were a little bit more into having embroidery and details. This one is a little bit more simple, but definitely has some detailing with the buttons, which was very popular during that time period. And then also they really liked to do high necklines because they were really into playing up kind of that need for modesty. So they would do, different kinds of ruffles and brooches, anything that they could to just kind of play up that area of the body.
Hey everyone, my name is Nicole White. My husband Brandon and I welcome you to Bienvenue Events.
So now we're going to talk about the industrial era. During this time period, we still saw Queen Victoria's influence on the white wedding dress, but the silhouettes definitely became more and more relaxed. And then we saw that heightened even more with the flapper 1920s era. You know, this was a time period where women were getting more and more rights. With that being said, they wanted more freedom in their clothing. Hemlines started to rise, waistlines started to drop, women began cutting their hair. They wanted to, go where they wanted, do what they wanted, and they wanted to be free to wear what they wanted. So of course that came into play with the wedding fashion. So let's compare what I'm wearing to the dresses of the 1920s. Of course, when we think of the 1920s, we think of that flapper dress. This dress has that fun beading that kind of moves with you. Of course, very popular during that time period. They were all about beading and appliques, little details you can see on the sleeves. This is very much something that a woman back then would have worn. They really liked to have fun with the necklines, but very much the silhouette was very straight. They were all about straight lines. So you can kind of see this one compared to what we were looking at before with the very accented waistline. This is very straight up and down, and that was very popular during that time period. And then of course, since women were cutting their hair, they were all about having really elaborate headpieces. So like this one you see here is very fun because during that time period, they were all about that glitz and glamour and having a good time. So of course, when it was time to have a wedding, they wanted to celebrate. Sweetheart necklines, lace, fit and flare silhouettes. Welcome to the 1950s. When Christian Dior debuted this look in 1947, it defined the entire 1950s fashion era. It was all about creating the illusion of an hourglass figure and highlighting that feminine shape. So let's talk about this dress and how it compares to one that they would have worn in the 1950s. So right off the bat, you can see this sweetheart neckline that very much defines those shoulders and kind of creates that illusion of pulling them out. Then we've got this very defined bodice, which kind of brings in that waistline. And then the flared skirt kind of creates that out, in, and out. Of course, we've got this lace detailing right here on the waist, which kind of highlights and defines that area. It brings the attention and draws that eye right to that area. So of course we've got some beading in here, which kind of creates kind of a almost 3D effect. That's probably not something that we would have seen back in that time period, but very much now it is influenced. But of course, this lace was very popular, and we're gonna see that all the way up, coming up in the 1960s, 70s, throughout history. Lace was very popular in the 1970s. They were all about wearing long sleeve dresses with very detailed lace sleeves. As you can see, they were very much about having kind of a detailed waistline, having that kind of that free-flowing, bohemian, earthy kind of look. This crocheting detail was very popular in that time period. They actually really loved to do more headpieces instead of doing like the traditional veil. They like to do flowers in their hair, which kind of played up that whole flower child look, and even wearing ribbons in their hair. It was all about kind of just being free and flowy and just kind of having that meadowy look almost. How fabulous are these sleeves? So obviously you can tell we are now in the 1980s. This was a time period where more was definitely more. So the puffy sleeve was made popular after Princess Diana wore hers to the 1981 wedding at Westminster Abbey. So if you want to see what goes into the look of the modern bride, stay tuned for episode 2. I'm Rachel Lowe, and thanks for watching Dressed Up.
I just love, obviously I love the sleeves, and I never thought that I would be so excited about a puffy sleeve dress, but this dress is it's beautiful, and it's the structure in the sleeves. I'm all about volume. I'm definitely not a less is more person. So I love, but I also do love that, they didn't do a lot of glitz and like sparkle on it, I think that really allows the sleeves to just kind of shine, and it's not over the top, because I think if they put a lot of detail, it would almost be too much. It's kind of that fit and flare look that's virtually flattering on anyone. Like anyone can wear it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they just slide right off. Wow. And then, I mean, they can even like make a little statement. It's like you're getting 2 for 1 and not having to spend, you know, on all the alterations. It's all, in one package.